Well, welcome back, everyone, to another edition of Wormwood Wednesdays. This is the second edition, in fact. And if you missed the first, let me tell you a little bit about what we're doing here. This is not like the normal essays that we release on a monthly basis. This is much more casual, much more informal. And we are meeting together every other Wednesday to read from one of C.S. Lewis's most famous books, the Screwtape Letters, which is a collection of letters from one demon, Uncle Screwtape, to his nephew, Wormwood. And it focuses on how he can best disrupt and interfere in the life of his assigned human, known only as the patient. Now, this kind of video may not be for you, and that's fine. I've actually lost some subscribers because of the last video that I posted, but to be honest, that's okay with me. I think it's that important that in this day and age, we're reading about the plans of the enemy, we're preparing ourselves for what may be in store. So we're going to read from the second letter today, and when we're finished, we're going to talk a little bit about it. But while you're listening, I want you to be thinking about what sort of comments you can leave for others. What ideas do you have? What insights? What encouragements? Let the comment section be a place of community, and I look forward to hearing from you. So let's go ahead and get started right now. Number 2. My dear Wormwood, I note with grave displeasure that your patient has become a Christian. Do not indulge the hope that you will escape the usual penalties. Indeed, in your better moments, I trust you would hardly even wish to do so. In the meantime, we must make the best of the situation. There is no need to despair. Hundreds of these adult converts have been reclaimed after a brief sojourn in the enemy's camp and are now with us. All of the habits of the patient, both mental and bodily, are still in our favor. One of the great allies at the present is the church itself. Do not misunderstand me. I do not mean the church as we see her spread out through all time and space and rooted in eternity, terrible as an army with banners. That, I confess, is a spectacle which makes our boldest tempters uneasy. But fortunately, it is quite invisible to these humans. All your patient sees is the half-finished, sham Gothic erection in the new building estate. When he goes inside, he sees the local grocer with a rather oily expression on his face, bustling up to offer him one shiny little book containing a liturgy, which neither of them understands, then one shabby little book containing corrupt texts of a number of religious lyrics, mostly bad and in very small print. When he gets to his pew and looks around him, he sees just that selection of his neighbors whom he has hitherto avoided. You want to lean pretty heavily on those neighbors. Make his mind flit to and fro between an expression like the body of Christ and the actual faces in the next pew. It matters very little, of course, what kind of people the next pew really contains. You may know one of them to be a great warrior on the enemy's side. No matter. Your patient, thanks to our Father below, is a fool. Provided that any of these neighbors sing out of tune or have boots that squeak or double chins or odd clothes, the patient will quite easily believe that their religion must therefore somehow be ridiculous. At his present stage, you see, he has an idea of Christians in his mind which he supposes to be spiritual, but which, in fact, is largely pictorial. His mind is full of togas and sandals and armor and bare legs, and the mere fact that the other people in church wear modern clothes is a real, though of course an unconscious, difficulty to him. Never let it come to the surface. Never let him ask what he expected them to look like. Keep everything hazy in his mind now, and you will have all eternity wherein to amuse yourself by producing in him the peculiar kind of clarity which hell affords. Work hard, then, on the disappointment or anticlimax which is certainly coming to the patient during his first few weeks as a churchman. The enemy allows this disappointment to occur on the threshold of every human endeavor. It occurs when the boy who has been enchanted in the nursery by stories from the Odyssey buckles down to really learning Greek. It occurs when lovers have got married and begin the real task of learning to live together. In every department of life, it marks the transition from dreaming aspiration to laborious doing. The enemy takes this risk because he has a curious fantasy of making all these disgusting little human vermin into what he calls his free lovers and servants. Sons is the word he uses, with his inveterate love of degrading the whole spiritual world by unnatural liaisons with these two-legged animals. Desiring their freedom, he therefore refuses to carry them, by their mere affections and habits, to any goals which he sets before them. He leaves them to do it on their own, and there lies our opportunity. But also remember, there lies our danger. If they once get through this initial dryness successfully, they become much less dependent on emotion and therefore much harder to tempt. I have been writing hitherto on the assumption that the people in the next pew afford no rational ground for disappointment. Of course, if they do, if the patient knows that the woman with the absurd hat is a fanatical bridge player or the man with the squeaky boots a miser and an extortioner, then your task is so much the easier. All you then have to do is keep out of his mind the question, if I, being what I am, could consider that I am in some sense a Christian, why should the different vices of those people in the next pew prove that their religion is mere hypocrisy and convention? You may ask whether it is possible to keep such an obvious thought from occurring, even to a human mind. It is, Wormwood. Handle him properly, and he simply won't come into his head. He has not been anything like long enough with the enemy to have any real humility yet. What he says, even on his knees, about his own sinfulness is all parrot talk. At bottom, he still believes he has run up a very favorable credit balance in the enemy's ledger by allowing himself to be converted, and thinks that he is showing great humility and condescension in going to church with these smug, commonplace neighbors at all. Keep him in that state of mind as long as you can. Your affectionate uncle, Screwtape. Well, that's some good food for thought for new converts and old converts alike. You know, you've heard it said that the church would be a great place if it weren't for all those Christians. And I think that so often the people that say that really are looking in the wrong direction. They're looking to their left and the right instead of looking at themselves and understanding where they stand compared to not only themselves, but really compared to the God that they stand before. Instead of looking around ourselves and noticing the faults of others, we really should be not only looking at ourselves and understanding our great need, but most importantly, we should be looking up and looking at the great God who saved us in spite of our fallenness and our brokenness. Well, that's all that we have for this week. I hope you join me in 2 weeks for the next Wormwood Wednesday. We've also got some pretty cool content coming out next week that I hope that you'll enjoy. And if you have, please share this channel with other people. We will probably be losing subscriptions because of this Wormwood Wednesday, but I think it's worth it, and I could use your help to keep the channel, the momentum going in spite of all of that. And so, as always, we look forward to seeing you next time as we take another journey into the wardrobe.